Anytime we can find an excuse to track down our boy Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com, we do it here on Shan and RJ Crosstalk with the KNC Masterpiece coming up at 9:40. Yesterday was the Christian Parker defensive coordinator press conference. Here is CP on why he chose this job.
I think when we initially started the process, you could tell there was an aligned vision for what they wanted in the position, where we wanted to go forward. Obviously, a great deal of respect for not only the organization, but the players involved on the team, having been in division for the past 2 years and having different times going against them. Significant offensive firepower, stayed up a lot of late nights trying to prepare for. So it always helps when you have a franchise quarterback and offensive skill players on that side of the ball that can control the game for you. But I think the biggest thing was just the alignment. You could feel from everybody in the building during those interactions that there was a shared vision involved and people wanted to move forward in the right direction.
Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com, joining us on the D&M Leasing Hotline. Good morning, brother. Good to have you back. What stood out to you from the press conference?
Well, he's in coach speak right now. You know what I mean? Like the way he gives the answer, but that's it. You're not going to get a whole lot more than that. Like, I think as a head coach, Brian Schottenheimer probably loves that. That they get a little antsy when the assistants and the coordinators like to talk a lot. He's not going to have this problem, really. I don't think with Christian Parker.
Yeah.
But it's not like he
wouldn't even say if he was going to call plays from the booth or the sideline.
Oh, everything is a we'll see, and that's probably where it is. Now, I was a little surprised that he did give the answer about the 3-4 by nature and the multiple fronts and things like that, which that's not giving anything away. Basically, said they're going to do everything, but play goal line every single snap. But I thought it was impressive, and. One of the things that after the press conference when we had a little walk-off, we were talking to him, I asked him about if you're going to play multiple fronts, you got to have the football IQ of these players has to be pretty strong, right? He's like 100%. And good luck being the smartest man in the room with him because he's smart as a whip. But I think that's something that stood out to me was if you're going to do all of these things, then that means they're going to have to be on the same page. They're going to have to understand what they're doing, and you got to have smart football players out there. So that's one thing that I think is very important with this new defense. Were there any players that you think, oh, this is a better fit or a worse fit for them when he did mention 3-4? I've kind of thought about that the last few weeks, maybe, and I wondered that my biggest thing is with the 3-4 is. What are you doing with those tackles that are now kind of defensive ends? Yeah. Is that the best spot for Quinnen Williams and Osa? Because I always was told that it's unless you have a J.J. Watt special type guy, it's usually they're like space eaters. They take up double teams, and I don't know if you're paying that guy $20 million plus. So I wonder about that. But I think Overshown would be pretty good on the edge. I think Ezeraku would be good on the edge. So I think you've got some pieces there.
Nick, I'm curious, when you listened to him talk yesterday and talk about the front seven and the nickel position and all these sort of things, did you come away from it going, okay, there's the blinking light, there's the position, there's the guy that they don't have somebody doing that right now, just based off of the way that he described things? Did you come away from that going like, okay, I know what the top position they're going to be looking at in the offseason is?
I feel like you did. But I didn't. Now I feel dumb. Now I want to flip it and ask you the question.
I thought it was interesting the way he talked about the nickel position.
Yeah, exactly. But I take that also from what Jerry said as well at the end of the season, how we missed the mark there. He didn't. I don't think he called out Jordan Lewis by name, but he definitely said nickel in the slot corner was a spot where they need to get a lot better. So I'm sure in their talks and discussions in those interviews, they both were like, yeah, I agree right there. Because he said 4-2-5, they'll play a lot of that. 4-2-5 with the nickel. But you wonder about the versatility of some of these players. The name that I've been told twice in the building was Marquise Bell, is a guy that I think they have some vision for. And I'll be honest, it worries me a little bit. But sometimes it just takes a different voice, a different plan for these players. And I think the reason why is here's a guy that's played some linebacker, he's played some safety, he might even play some cover corner in the slot. So versatility in tweeners are going to be very important in a defense like this because you're going to play multiple fronts. So the guy that can be a tweener is probably going to play a lot.
Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com joining us here on 105.3 The Fan. Nick, when you hear Christian Parker talk and you hear him lay things out, I think a lot of people assume whenever these interviews happen, the discussions are along the lines of, all right, well, who's gonna pitch me the best vision on making it work with the guys we have here? Others, it may be, all right, who's just gonna pitch me the best vision, and we're gonna make sure he has the resources or the ability to go get people to build this. Which one did you come away from the press conference feeling like Christian Parker was, that he's coming here to build a defense with players that he has a vision for, or that he's the one who pitched them on the vision of, I can make these players work?
I think that's another good question. I kind of feel like, yeah, missed you guys. No, I think that it's both. I really do think it's just like the defense. I think it's multiple. I think that there's no way you can sit here and say it's all Eberflus. It was all him. Just need a new voice. We know that the players have to be better. The linebackers have to be better. Corners. They need a pass rush. I mean, I probably said that wrong because I think pass rush to me is always where it starts. So I do think it's a player thing. But at the same time, with the guys that are here, it's all about teaching too. And I think that they looked at him as like, here's a teacher. He's coming in here, and from the stuff that I've been told is that he doesn't just want them to be in the right spot. This is where you need to be. Whoever, I don't want to call out a player. I'm just Overshown. You need to be here, but not just be here, but understand why. Like, understand the why are you in this spot, especially when the linebacker is here and the tight end moves over here. Things like that. Because I think that just having a guy line up there doesn't really help when they audible and things like that. You need to understand why it's your position. And that being said, I think that's why they love Parker from the teaching standpoint, that he really can relate to them. And, the 32, he's 34. Shotty was 32 when he was a coordinator. This is not by accident. These players can relate to these coaches, and the coaches relate to the players. And they got to be able to do the job. They can't sit there and, check out each other's shoe game and watch game and what songs they're listening to and all that. It's got to be, coaching and teacher and player relationship. But I still think from how they get that job done, I think that they're really excited about him as the teacher.
Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com on the Christian Parker hire and press conference here on Shan and RJ. Something or nothing that Jerry and Steven were not there?
Oh, I don't. Listen, I was there when that question was asked. I was there when it was addressed after the press conference, so I really don't want to jump into all that. I didn't think much about it when I was told two chairs. I was like, okay, great. I was thinking it could be one. I mean, I didn't know for sure if Shotty would be there. I don't think it's much to it at all. And I think we all kind of preferred that, just from a standpoint of it's a different conversation. It's a different press conference when you have more things there. And so I think it was better. I mean, what's funny is that if anybody's making a big deal out of it, it would be the media, but it would be the same people that would have derailed that thing and asked about Pickens in the third question. So this was Parker's day. This was why he was here. And it really didn't go into further than that. And I think from a media standpoint, if Jerry and Steven are up there and you're a couple of weeks away from free agency, why would you not ask those questions? So I think it was a smart move not to do that. There'll be a time for that. That's what the Combine's for. They'll be doing that next week. Steven will be talking, Jerry maybe on the bus, Shotty will be talking, and then it'll be more about that. This was if it wasn't for the weather we had a couple weeks ago, I think this press conference would have happened 2 weeks ago.
I know you guys are in full draft swing and preview over there, so just kind of run down what the hottest topics and hottest names have been at 12, 20, trade. free agents, all of it.
You know, there's a team that has a silver helmet, and they got these little red and white, like, Buckeye stickers on them.
Yeah.
You've got that, you're in. Like, we'll take you. Yeah, that's the way. It seems like every time you turn around, it's an Ohio State guy here or there, and I don't think you could go wrong there. And I know that there's people out there that love Ohio State, hate Ohio State, whatever. I've always been kind of impartial to them, but this year they've got some defensive studs, and I think if you got at least one, if not two, man, you'd be cooking with grease right there. But I think it's a pass rusher for me, but I think you've got to address that pass rush in free agency, because at 12, and I know you guys, I listened to you guys, I talk about it.
Well,
I don't think I don't think you can count on it. You can't count on getting a stud in the draft. If it falls to you, great. And then if you get one at 20, maybe that would be considered a reach. Again, it'll all kind of develop how it develops, but I think you've got to address it in free agency or a trade or whatever. At least get you somebody you can count on. And then if it falls to you, sure. I mean, I've seen the Giants win a Super Bowl with 8 pass rushers one year, so you can't have too many of those.
Can you envision any scenario where you take a non-defensive player with either of the picks?
First of all, I didn't realize you were with us, Chop. I'm excited.
Hey, I'm here.
You're laying out, yeah. Yeah. If there's a left tackle that's just like I think of, was it Slater the year that they drafted Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
I mean, like that kind of guy. If you're kind of wiped out a little bit for what your grades suggest, that's going to be the biggest question. And I don't mean to avoid the question. Left tackle would be one, or if there's some kind of trade for Pickens. I mean, if somebody wants to throw 2 number ones after the tag, I can't see that happening. But if it does, then that changes your strategy at receiver. But it's really more about that left tackle. But I'm curious to see how many first-round grades they have, because if you're sitting there with 12 or 13, then you better hope to get one. You will get one at 12 probably. But if it's, I've heard 17, 18, 19 in the past, and if that's the case, then man, you can get 2 of your top if your first 2 picks with first-round grades. And so that being said, I could see a scenario where maybe it is a tackle that could jump in, and then Guyton probably moves to right tackle, and then maybe you do something with Steele. But and I'm not on the camp of cutting Steele just to save money, because I'm like, well, then what? Who are you going to sign, and what are you going to do at right tackle or left tackle? Because there's not a lot of guys out there right now.
What is the biggest piece of intel we should all be trying to get next week in Indy?
Not food related, right?
No.
You going, Bobby?
Yeah, I'll be there pretty much all week.
We're all going, baby.
Yeah, Broadus is going to be out there, Nick.
Oh my goodness! So you guys are all on Radio Row and all that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You haven't been listening that much.
Wow. I gotta get there now. No.
Oh, are you booked?
I'm not there. No, we got 6 people in our staff going, and I didn't want to ask for 7. You know what I mean? You can't 6 and 7. They don't go together anymore. So I just didn't do that. I didn't ask, but man, now I'm gonna have serious FOMO. As far as the question, I don't know, man. Find something not Pickens related. I think the Javonte stuff's interesting too. I mean, they really, really like him, but at the same time, it's hard not to say, all right, Pollard had 1,000 yards here and 1,000 yards for who am I missing here in between Javonte and Pollard? Rico, yeah, who's looking at the franchise tag, maybe in Carolina. So it's like, well, if these guys are doing all that, do we really need to pay this? But at the same time, you want to reward these guys. And I know Dak, loves the fact that you've got a bruiser up there, not afraid to block, and he just does the dirty work. But you got to be smart about it too. And so we've seen this team say, "Wow, what a great season!" AP Offensive Player of the Year, 1,800 yards rushing, DeMarco Murray, and then here's the money, $6 million a year, take it or leave it, and he left and went somewhere else. So they've done this before. Great year by the running back, but got to be smart about it.
Thank you, brother. Book your ticket.
All right, see you guys.